All right, here we go. All right, welcome to day 3 of our 5-day challenge to launching your multifamily real estate business. Today we're going to be focusing on lead generation. So let me pull up our PowerPoint. All right. Good morning, Mr. Diaz. Glad to see you here. All right, here we go. All right, welcome to day 3. Here we go. All right, so what we're going to be talking about today, here's the thing. There's always going to be a lot of different ways to do lead generation. Whether you're wholesaling or doing single family homes or doing large apartment buildings, there's always going to be a lot of different ways to do lead generation, some of which are free, some of which cost a lot of money, and some of which just cost time, and some that are right in between. What I'm going to be focusing on with you guys today is really leveraging the people who are already in the business, already have contacts, already have connections, and are already doing it, and get them to start looking for you. So for the purpose of this 5-day challenge, we're going to focus with lead generation just on leveraging brokers or realtors, depending on the market and what level of multifamily you're jumping into. Okay, so just know that it's not the only way. But if I inundate you with information, you'll never be able to take any action. So we'll start with the one thing and get going on it. Okay, so what we're going to be doing, what I'm just going to show you, which is just kind of an intro to this today, is one, you can just Google commercial real estate broker in X city, all right, or real estate agent in X city. If you are looking at apartment buildings specifically, we got a mute situation happening somewhere. Okay, there we go. Anyway, if you're focusing on multifamily as in apartment buildings, then you want to Google commercial real estate broker, right? Somebody who focuses in the area of commercial. Now, commercial in our industry doesn't necessarily mean like retail commercial, like commercial. It's a broader term than that. So commercial has an umbrella over retail, like warehouse space, apartment buildings like multifamily, and that is the word commercial is more tied to the financing than anything, but it's something that we talk about. But if you're ever in a conversation and you're focusing on multifamily and you say the word commercial, which in multifamily means 5 or more units, but you're just having a general conversation with someone who invests in like strip malls, they're going to be a little confused because it sounds like you're doing that kind of commercial. So just know that depending on the context of the situation, you might adjust your conversation a little bit. Okay, but we're gonna be looking for commercial real estate agents or commercial brokers if you're looking for apartments. If not, you can just go straight to agents in the market. All right, but if you are looking specifically at multifamily and more like apartment buildings, LoopNet is a great resource. If you are more in the 2 to 4 unit, because I know not everybody in this call is ready to do apartments, and doing 2 to 4 units is a great stepping stone to learn the business of doing rentals, closing, doing remote real estate before you step into apartments. But if you're ready to go right into apartments, you're going to go probably right to LoopNet, all right, and look for commercial brokers. So what I want to do is I want to just kind of show you. So you're going to create a free account. Under the for sale, you're going to select multifamily and enter the city. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to pull up Google. You pull up Chrome and let's pull up LoopNet. All right, LoopNet.com. That can't be reached. Well, that's not convenient for, going live. Okay, there we go. Okay, here we go. So here you see where it has for sale. Obviously, I already clicked there. So under enter property type, you'd scroll down to multifamily. But as you can see, they have a lot of different property types: office, industrial, retail, restaurant, shopping center, multifamily, specialty, healthcare, hospitality, sports and entertainment, land, and residential income. Okay, so we're going to select multifamily in this particular case. And then whatever city you're looking in, say you're looking in Kansas City. Kansas City. Okay, so what we're doing is we're coming here to LoopNet has listings of multifamily. They have listings of a lot of different commercial things. Now, when you have a premium membership to LoopNet, which has a monthly fee associated with it, you'll have access to more. But when you're brand new and you're just getting started, you don't need to do that yet, right now what you guys are doing is you're just getting your feet wet. You're starting to do some outreach. You're starting to take a look at some deals just to lay a foundation. You're getting a little bit of knowledge and understanding, and you're pairing that with, okay, let me get out and see what this actually looks like. So you don't really want to pay for a membership yet. When you are like, okay, I'm ready to go, if you aren't getting the amount of lead generation that you want in from LoopNet and from the brokers that you're talking to, then go ahead and pay for the premium. In the scheme of things, it's a drop in the bucket because you're talking about buying something that is a, hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars of an asset that's going to produce income for you. So don't get hung up on what the monthly cost is. When it's go time, if you don't have the lead generation you want, it's okay to upgrade to LoopNet for a couple of months until you get what you need. So, but I just wanted to show you a little bit about it. Interestingly enough, apparently some people list something that's even as small as 2 units. So you have 2 units. And what I wanted to really show you here was just like how to go find brokers in the area. So let's click on the listing. All right, and this one seems to be focused a lot on pictures, but here we go. You guys are on my screen right there. Okay, so do you guys see on the right side of the screen, it shows who the listing agent is. So looks like Richard Redding, Katie Sullivan, and it has their phone number, right? AMG, and it has their phone number. So what I want you guys to do is when you're just starting to lay a foundation, so Monday it was, or day one, it was, let's find a market, right? And then yesterday it was, let's start building a team. Today it's, let's start doing some lead generation. So, and we're also going to be building a team because the team in this case is our brokers or real estate agents. That's also an important part of our team, but they are the ones who are going to provide our lead generation. So what I would want you to do is just come over here and note these names. I don't even care about this specific deal. This has nothing to do with anything right now. What you're trying to do is really just create contacts. All right, so let's go back. I mean, the one thing that I would say is if you're dealing with, let's say that it's your desire to do something that's 20 units. This first one might not be my first choice, right? Because it's someone listing a 2 unit, but they might do other multis also. So I don't actually know. It might be that if we look at other ones, we see that a lot of investors go to them, right? We'll take a look. This one doesn't look like a huge property. I don't know how many units it is. Sometimes it says, like in this one, it says 2 units. This one, it doesn't say. Here's one that's 7 units. Okay, so 6.5% cap rate. And tomorrow we're really going to dive into like all the financial stuff, the financial analysis, and how do you calculate things? What's the nomenclature? What does it mean? How is it applicable? Etc. All right, so let's see. So we have a 7-unit apartment building. So we'll click on it and say, okay, well, who's listing this 7-unit apartment building? Oh, interesting. It's the same one. Okay, so we're going to take note of their name and number if you hadn't already, and just put it on your list. The other thing you can note that will make your conversation a little bit easier when you reach out is if you saw a listing for that person, if you can take note of the address and the number of units. So I might write Richard Redding, the phone number, and then in my notes just write 7 units, 2820 Harrison Street. Just so I have something to reference on the phone call if we end up having a conversation. If you end up leaving a voicemail, which is mostly what you'll end up doing, then you'll go ahead and be able to just reference, hey, I just want to touch bases with you. I saw your listing for 2820 Harrison Street, that 7-unit in Kansas City, wanted to get more information about it, looking to make a purchase here. All right, let's go back. Now, if your appetite is for something bigger, if you're like, okay, 2 units, 7 units, that's great, but I'm really looking for more like 20 to 30, then go ahead and look for the ones that are a little bit larger and look for those brokers. Let's just see. It's the same one. Okay, so this guy's, maybe he just does everything in the area. It's one of the things that's interesting in a lot of markets. You'll find that a very small handful of agents just kind of own the market as far as listings, and because they have a reputation for being able to move them and sell them. So they have a lot of buyers lined up. They get the listing, they get to double end it. So it's a really common thing that you see, especially as you get into larger multifamily real estate. All right, so you just have all these different things. So one, from a lead generation standpoint, you can use LoopNet to look at deals. And that's fine. I'm not going to say don't do it. Like, this is a way that you can get some information in. But what I don't want you to do is I don't want you to do this instead of building the relationship and calling the broker and having a conversation. Because a lot of real estate happens, like, you will never see it. You won't ever see it listed. The reason you get it is because you have the relationship with the person and they know what you want and they've had a chance to get you and to know you a little bit. And then they get access to a property. They're like, oh my gosh, Freddie, this is exactly what you're looking for, right? And they call you up and connect you with it. So This is a great play. You can go ahead and look at the properties on it, but more importantly, it's going to be the brokers that you want to be calling and talking to. Something else that's interesting about LoopNet, like this is a good example. So investment opportunity for 18 doors, multiple locations. So that would be a portfolio purchase. So it's 1.1 million, 12.73% cap rate. That's pretty high for a cap rate. 11 properties, mixed types. Interesting. So it's probably single family homes, duplexes based on 18 doors. So that's something else that you'll see. Oh, yay, we actually have a different agent this time. So Kalina Shoemaker. So I put her name and her number down. Write it down, give her a call, build the relationship, but reference, hey, I saw that you had, a 18-door package property. I kind of wanted to find out more about it, but also let me know what I'm actually looking for. Okay, so depending on what you're looking for, which we'll go through that in just a minute. Okay, anyway, so this is LoopNet. Just wanted to introduce you to it because there's just a wealth of information, particularly when you're just getting started. Like you could definitely keep yourself completely busy just with the free version of LoopNet, with getting the information about the properties and the information about the brokers and just touching bases with them. All right, stop that one. Back to here. Don't think that was what I meant to share. Let's try that again. Oh, there we go. Okay. Did everybody get that written down? So create free account, because I was already logged in, so you didn't see that create free account part. Under for sale, select multifamily, enter the city. All right. Okay, and then this, if you didn't take notes on it yet, go ahead and write this down. This is just what I was describing as we were going through. So in LoopNet, select the listing, scroll down to the listing agent, record their name, phone number, and the brief property description. Like I said, the address and the number of units, just so you have something to reference on the call as you're chatting it up with them. All right, so let's go through some of the conversation that we're going to be having. Okay, so you're calling brokers, realtors, brokers. Everything that's in here, I want you to adjust for where you are. So if you're still in the 2 to 4 family thing, then take it from 10 to 30 unit building and say 2 to 4 units. Okay. So a little bit. All right. So script is basic, brief. My partner and I are working on entering the market. And the reason you're saying that, my partner and I, because the agent might ask you questions that you don't know how to answer. That's normal, especially if you're new. You're not going to know how to answer them until someone asks you the question. You go figure out how to answer it, and then you have the opportunity to practice delivering it. This is probably, without a doubt, the most challenging part for people who are new, is getting through talking to agents and getting lead generation going, because if you are not already doing real estate and already really familiar with everything here, which people who are new are not, it's uncomfortable because you don't feel like you know what you're talking about. You're really good at what you're really good at in, outside of investing, and you know everything there is to know about that. But as soon as you have to start doing something new, super uncomfortable. It's just not fun. But the only way to get on the other side of that is just to rip off the Band-Aid and go for it. And it's making the phone calls. So like in our mastermind course, there is, it's a big deal. It takes a while to get it. There's probably 10 different videos on the flow of the call with the realtor, and exactly what to say, and all the common realtor questions and how to answer them, and why did they even ask that question, and what's going on behind the scenes, because it takes a while to really build that knowledge. The best way that you guys can start to do that is just be willing to put your ego aside, put the fear aside, and just go do it anyway. Because what's going to happen is you're going to have a broker or real estate agent ask you a question. It's going to possibly expose that you're new when you're trying to not sound new. And you know what? It is what it is. The reason I give you the script, my partner and I, is you can always say, oh, well, I'm newer to this part of our business. My partner normally does it on that, but I'm working on like getting some lead generation going, because look, we're looking to close on a 10 to 30 unit building here in the next couple of months, or whatever the size is. So the reason I want you to say my partner and I, and no matter who you're talking to, you can always refer to me as the partner. So anything I ever say on any kind of video you ever watch, you are free to just put that in your pocket and say, oh, my partner has been investing for 17 years, has invested in 13 states. And like anything I say, you can say, and just say, oh, it's my partner. I'll be your partner. I don't really partner up with I don't partner up with my students, but I can be that person, which allows you to relax a little bit into the conversation and not feel like you have to answer every question. So, but when they do ask a question that you don't know the answer to, what you can simply say is, you know what, that's a great question. My partner is actually the one who normally handles this part of the business, but I'm stepping a little bit more into it, just to get more familiar and because we just really want to focus on this right now. So let me get the answer to that and I'll get back to you. And then keep the conversation going. Anyway, so how long have you been doing real estate, or how long have you been working in multifamily? Like, tell them you'll get back to them with the answer because your partner is the one that normally handles this part of the business. So what it does is it makes it seem like you've been doing real estate, or you and your partner have been doing real estate for a long time in a lot of places, have a lot of experience. It's just that your niche in the business is a different one. And so that it pulls off the pressure so that you're not so freaked out when it comes time to make a call and they're going to ask you questions you don't know how to answer, because they are. So what you can do is, from a practical standpoint, you call, they're going to ask you the questions, you tell them, oh, that's a great question, let me check with my partner and I'll get back to you on that. Jot it down, whatever questions come up, and it might be several the first few calls because everything is new. When you get those questions, you can hop on the Facebook group and say, hey, I had a couple of questions come up from my lead generation homework. They asked this question, I'm not really sure how to answer it. And as long as you tag me in it, I will come in and I will give you guys answers to those questions. Or I might do like a live being like, hey, I had a couple of specific questions that came up from the homework. Here's how I would address it. Okay, so as you do that, and you come back to the Facebook group and you ask me, like, how do I address it? I will give you the answer. You go back to the broker or the real estate agent and you say, okay, so I checked in with my partner. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we're looking for. Or here's the answer to that question. And it's really important that when you do that, you call them back and you deliver it verbally, even if it's over voicemail, which is painful. And the only reason I'm even saying that is because every time you get a chance to let it come over the threshold of your lips, it sounds crazy, but it's true. Like, you can know something here, and I can tell you all day long, say this, 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 and this. And you're like, yeah, okay, no big deal. Like, totally makes sense. And then you go to do it, and some different version like comes out, and you're like, I didn't mean to say that. I know what to say, but it didn't come across the threshold of my lips right. It's so painful, just normal. But so the more times you can actually say it, then the more you're gonna get it. And then the future call, you're doing all this like your investment in your future calls. The first ones are a little bit painful. And sometimes you'll get people who are like, yeah, no, I'm just not interested. No big deal. Just know you're gonna do a lot of reps in the beginning. If you want to do this business, if you want to create financial freedom and passive cash flow and everything else, you have to get good at this. And there's no way to get good at it but to just do it. And here's something one of my colleagues said once, and I was like, that's pretty good. I like that, on how to get over the fear of doing it. So if you are a little bit nervous about reaching out, pick a market that you have no intention whatsoever of buying property in, and reach out to those brokers. Talk to those agents, because it doesn't matter if you totally screw up the call, which you will a few times, or you'll screw up a part of the call, whatever. It doesn't matter because you weren't going to buy property there anyway. All right, so it's just kind of a little bit of a hack so that you can actually get the practice of taking it from knowledge here to coming out of your mouth and doing it. Because all day long, you guys can spend hours and hours and hours, and hundreds of hours on education and learning and all this information in your head, and that's great. It does you no good at all. So you put it into practice, because that's where you actually learn it, by doing it. All right, so we're looking for 10 to 30 unit building, if you are. All right, and if you're looking for 50 units, that's cool. And if you're looking for 2 to 4, you're looking for 5 to 10, whatever. So fill in for you. We're looking for 10 to 30 unit building in a B or C area. So when we're referring to B or C area, in multifamily real estate, they have classifications of areas. It's a little bit vague because it's not a strict definition, because it's just something that's been developed over time, but there's A, B, C, and D areas. A areas would be like downtown San Diego, where you're going to pay, I don't even know, hundreds of thousands of dollars per unit. It's very high end. It's very nice. The rents are super high, but the prices are so incredibly high because the real estate there is very, very valuable. The rents are high, but the rents are still nowhere near the 1% rule, like the very first basic thing that we use to eliminate, you know, a building or a market using the 1% rule. So an A area is like high-end tenants, high-end building, classy everything, exactly where you'd want to live, but they don't tend to work if your objective is cash flow. And it's interesting because back when we had the real estate crash in 2008, 2009, I had to go back and get a job for a little while, which I think nearly, like literally killed me emotionally, because I had been an entrepreneur at that point for 6 years and in real estate. And so to have to go back and get a job, it was like the most horrible thing ever in my mind at the time. But I ended up getting a job as a chief financial officer for a 1,000-unit property management company. And it was all like 100 to 200 unit buildings. There were just a few very large buildings, and they were all luxury. And the owner, who was this 82-year-old little guy, he's like, you know, 4'10" and sharp as a tack. At one point, he was like, so right before I started, you know, being the CFO there, he had bought a piece of land right in downtown San Diego, right by the harbor, and it was right across the street from a building he had already built called Allegro Towers. Super posh, super nice, super fancy, and it was just a little parking lot, a little postage stamp, and he had bought it for like $4.5 million for just, I mean, it was a tiny parking lot. I used to park there. And so when I got there, he was like, okay, so here's this land. I want to generate a building. I need you to go get me financing. And I was like, okay. So as I got into the project, I was like, I don't understand like the numbers of this. It's going to cost $32 million to build this business, to build this building. And he said, I know, and I want to put 16 million into it. So all I need is a 50% loan. And I'm looking at all the projected rent rolls. Everything was one bedroom. So which tends to have a more transient impact, like one bedroom compared to two, where you might have people who stay a little bit longer. But it was the specific real estate. His objective wasn't cash flow. And I couldn't wrap my mind around that, because I had never heard of buying an apartment building for anything other than cash flow. But there are other reasons. That's not what I teach or what I do. There are other reasons. For him, it was part of, he had so much money and he had so much cash, and he was 82. He didn't care about cash flow. He had tons of it already. He just wanted to do something cool. He wanted to make a mark in the city. He wanted people to know his name, and he wanted to have another super cool posh building. So there are times, and the reason I tell you that is because when I was new to investing, and then specifically when I started working with him, I was like, why would anybody do this? I never understood like A-class apartment builds. Like, why would you do it? They don't cash flow. It's for the purpose of appreciation or status or for a tax write-off. So there's a lot of different reasons people might do something like that, but that's not a cash flow strategy for you. But that's an A market. B and C markets are more like working class, specifically C. Like C would become a blue collar, you know, working class. B is somewhere in between. So B and C areas are where the rents are going to be like steady, but the prices are a lot more like in line with what we would need to be looking at. Okay, so you're going to say B or C area, and the reason you're going to convey that verbiage is going to tell the broker that you know what you're talking about. You don't want to be like, oh, you know, some decent areas, B or C. So use the vernacular that is used in multifamily so that they understand that you know what you're talking about. They should do for that one, right? So you can say, hey, I'm flexible in price. I don't have a specific price in mind. I just want to, we're shopping around a little bit. We've got some money that we need to place. And, you know, and we have the ability to pull more in if we need to. So I just want to see what's out there. So I'm flexible in price. Can you send me what you find? And then let me just start taking a look at it. And then I can more narrowly define what it is that we're looking for once I get a feel for what the market has to offer. Okay. So just, it doesn't have to be this long drawn out conversation. It's really more about rapport building, getting to know them getting to know you, and just say, yeah, let's just see what we can do. Like, go ahead and send me some stuff. Let me take a look at it. All right. All right. So let's talk about your day 3 homework. All right. I want you to find 5 commercial brokers. If you're looking at 5+ units, if you're looking for 2 to 4, just 5 real estate agents. Okay. You can find the real estate agents on LoopNet. You can also go to Zillow. You can Google. Okay. But I want you to talk to 5 agents. I want you to call and introduce yourself for no reason other than to just get the practice of doing it. Let them know what you're looking for and ask them to send you any properties that fit. You might get some action from that, and you might not. Maybe the only thing that comes out of it is that you've got the opportunity to say this thing 5 times. And if that's all that came out of it for this first little bit of homework, fine. But chances are, if you get 5 and you're kind of like, okay, I feel like I'm getting this down a little bit more, I'm willing to do number 6 and number 7, number 8. As you keep calling, the more people you have out there looking for you, the faster your deal is going to come. And the faster you're going to get properties in, then you can take to the next step and start analyzing. And when your confidence goes up because you know what you're doing, because you're actually doing it, the quicker everything is going to start going. Okay, so this is what your homework is. I see that we have some chats. Oops. I see we have some stuff in the chat box. So let me go there. Kimberly. Oh, wait, here we go. Christine. Oh, Christine, you're on the call? I don't even see you. Well, you must be. Oh, you're over in attendees. I hadn't brought you over yet. Okay. Kansas City, nice. Kimberly, I talked to a broker yesterday and he had 3 other off-market deals. Exactly. It's funny because this is not apartment buildings, but Natasha, who some of you might know because she's very active in our group, she's one of our strategists. She actually joined our mastermind in January. That started in February, and she found a duplex in Indianapolis that was listed. And so she called the agent and was like, yeah, I'm interested in this duplex. And she was looking at it to buy it. Well, she built a relationship with the agent, and the agent's like, well, actually, the seller has 5 other properties and they're not listed, but I think he kind of wants to just be done being a landlord. Are you interested in multiple properties? And she's like, sure, I'll take a look. Well, she ended up getting all 6 of them under contract and ended up wholesaling them to other people in the mastermind. So, so like the one property that she found online or she found through her realtor turned into 6. Now at one point she was like, I'm going to try to close on all of them. And she's like, I don't have the financing, the timing isn't, but I have other people in the mastermind who are ready to buy and I can make some money. They can get the property. So it was a just total win-win. So she just went in that direction, but 5 out of the 6 were off market, but it came from the relationship from the one. So yeah, Kimberly, I'm glad that you brought that up. It's a really good point. That is a lot of times how things are done. All right, Allie, definitely appreciate your discussing how to get comfortable talking to agents. Yeah, you know what? I can literally remember the feeling in my stomach, and it's just sheer nausea. Because I'm so scared to get on the phone and talk to them because I was used to knowing I was in accounting. I was a corporate controller and I was doing my thing. I knew about the debits and the credits and all the things that were relevant to my industry then. But I was new to real estate and it was so embarrassed that I just didn't know stuff. And I didn't have anybody. I didn't have a Facebook group or a mentor or a mastermind or a coach. I had nobody to ask questions to. I was just like, painful, very painful. So I remember, not fondly, but I'm glad for that to have that experience because it really does allow me to remember what it was like to be new and to step into your shoes and to try to give you some of the tips and tricks that I use to try to get through that. Because once you do and you start getting things, you're literally unstoppable, but you got to start somewhere to become unstoppable. So you just got to rip off that Band-Aid and go for it. All right. Sorry, Sean, I just realized your question was below some pop-up on my thing. What range properties would you suggest for those of you who are completely new to this? So Sean, I'll mute you. Okay, Sean, when you say you're completely new to real estate or completely new to multifamily, give me a little bit of context.
Completely new to real estate.
Okay, so it depends. It's not really a price point as much as I'd say you want to focus. Is your inclination to start with smaller multifamily? Some people are like, I just want to go right to 20 units, and they have no interest in doing the stepping stones. What do you feel more inclined to from a property type standpoint, not a price point, to start?
I'm inclined to go larger, but again, this is all new to me. So if it's easier to start lower, I'm happy to do that.
Okay. It's not easier to start smaller or lower. It's the same amount of work. Here's why I am a fan of the stepping stone approach. But anyone who comes to me and says, I don't really want to mess with that. I just want to go to apartments. I will not tell them no or dissuade them. I'll be like, okay, well, let's do it. But there's just a lot to learn. The reason I say that it's not a bad idea to start smaller and build your way up is because the learning curve is so incredibly steep. It's practically vertical. And so when you make moves on, let's say, a duplex, you buy a duplex, and you go through your first calculation and your offer and your due diligence, and then that pre-closing time where you're herding all the cats to pull together the insurance and the real estate agent and the title company and the lender, and it's a major cat herding project just to close on the property. And then you actually close, and then you're either renovating, or if it's already cash flowing, you're dealing with your property manager. So you have all these things that are happening, and literally at every step along the way, you're like, okay, got it. I see what that looks like. And oh, now I see why I was supposed to ask for that. Shoot. Okay, well, I guess it's too late now, but I'll know for next time. That is the big reason that I like the starting smaller and moving your way up, because the lessons that you learn on the smaller ones, Sean, are what build you up for when you go into bigger ones. Like you catch things easier. Like when people are, bringing deals on their mastermind, they're showing it to me, and I'll be like, oh, wow, okay, hey, heads up, you need to go change this one little thing, because this is going to end up costing you $20,000 if you write the contract this way. And they're like, oh, I had no idea. And so, if you're doing that on small properties, just imagine you make that same mistake on a 40 unit. Instead of it being a $20,000 error, you can easily make a $200,000 error like that. Like, it's not hard at all to make a rookie error that has a cost to it. And I'm not saying it's common to make a $20,000 error on a smaller one, but the point is you want to learn on the stuff that doesn't have big financial implications if you make an error. So what's an example of this one? Okay, for example, let's say you're closing on your first property, and you don't catch until it's too late that they didn't give you the prorated rents. Now, chances are you'll be able to go back and get them. Let's just say that you didn't catch that on a 2 unit. You're like, damn it, I would have had an extra $700 because I closed, middle of the month, and I would have had half the rent. And damn, I missed that $700. Okay, but you will never, ever, 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 ever forget that, because it happened and it was something real, instead of just someone telling you and planting it in your head like, hey, don't forget that. And you're like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But when you do it, and you either do it right and you go, oh, okay, yeah, I see it because I did it, or you do it wrong, you're like, oh, down. Either way, that lesson sticks because you did it. And then when you start moving up, all that knowledge and wisdom comes with you, so that you have a much higher success rate because you're bringing in your experience. So that's really the main reason. It's not really financial, and it's not that you can't just jump into it. It's that you learn so much on the first few deals. That, to me, it's an investment in time. And yes, does it delay you getting into apartments? Yes, but will you make way more money when you get into apartments because of the time that you took to really learn it and dig in and understand it? You'll make way more money long term if you actually understand how to do it, because you started with the small ones, got the lessons, did it, saw what was real about it, made adjustments as you kept growing and going up. Does that make sense? So I will still answer the question of dollar amount. The dollar amount is really going to depend on your strategy, as far as, are you looking to buy something that's already performing, or do you want to go to a situation where the property is distressed, meaning physically distressed, it's a fixer-upper, and you want to go in and renovate it and basically create the equity in it and then cash flow? So those are two different strategies that are going to have a different amount of financial investment that's required. Which direction would you be leaning towards, Sean?
My inclination would be the value add opportunities.
Okay, got it. So in that particular case, like those, well, right now it's a little bit different because with COVID, all the lending stuff has changed. So I'm just about to launch into a big project, a big group project with everyone to like try to pull together as much information as far as what's actually out there right now with lending. But in the past, let's say you could get a loan for 90% of the purchase and 90% of the rehab if it's fixer-upper. That might be more like 80% now, but we'll see. We're gonna, like I said, group effort to try to pull that information together. But you would have a fairly small amount of like down payment on a lower amount because you're buying a fixer, right? So if you're buying something that's performing and you have to put down 20% and you're buying it for $150,000, you got to drop $30,000 plus impounds and closing costs and everything else, right? But if you're buying a fixer, excuse me, oh, never mind. I need to grab a tissue, but my tissue's not here, so never mind. I'll just fill this. Okay, anyway. If you're buying a fixer, let's say you're buying it for $50,000 and you're putting $30,000 into it. So if you have to put down 20% of that, you're putting 20% of the 50, so 10, and you're putting 20% of the 30. So 6. So now you're only putting down 16,000 instead of 30,000. So when you're doing the fixer upper, it actually requires less capital up front because the lenders, well, the purchase price in their in the rehab, the whole amount is lower because it's an asset that doesn't have the value yet. You're going to fix it up and create the value where it would be worth the 120 or 150. So if your objective is the value add, you want to, it's going to depend on how much capital you're comfortable putting into a deal. Do you have a kind of a thought on that?
Well, I mean, I'm going to have to learn how to raise capital. I'm not sitting.
Okay, gotcha. So in that case, so what you would do, this is what I did when I was new, Sean. I did not have funds when I was new. So I would network with people, and now you can network on Facebook and network socially and within masterminds and things like that. But when I was new, I would go to real estate investment clubs, and I was there to just learn whatever I could. But I had actually invested in my education, so I actually had knowledge. I still didn't know what the hell I was doing with it, but I knew the words and I knew the theories. And I would talk to people at the investor clubs and be like, yeah, I'm investing in these areas, which I hadn't done anything yet, but it's what I wanted to do. I'm investing in buying distressed houses or duplexes, and I'm doing renovations on them, and then I'm renting them out and then refinancing them. And what I'm looking for is someone who can bring the financing in to help me purchase it and renovate it. And then once I refinance it, I'll pay it back. And back then I always said I pay 12% interest. Over time, I've been able to pay less because I had more experience to offer. But back then I didn't know, and that's someone threw out that number, and I was like, okay, sounds good. So I was like, I'll pay you 12% interest. I think I'll have your money for 4 to 6 months, because sometimes the refinance process takes a little bit. And that's how I actually got into my deals, was just going in and talking to other people. They wanted to invest in real estate. They wanted to do it, but they didn't have the knowledge. They weren't making the investment in their knowledge or education other than just showing up once a month to a 1-hour investor club or a couple-hour investor club. So they didn't know how to do it, but they wanted to. So I was the perfect vehicle for them to feel like they were doing real estate. Now, they weren't actually doing jack. I was doing it all. And frankly, they were just like, once they gave me the money, I was willing to teach them too, even though I didn't really know what I was doing. But I'm like, well, I'll teach you. I'll let you go along the journey with me. You can see what I'm doing. You can learn as I'm doing it. And everyone's like, oh my God, yes, that's exactly what I want. Thank you. I really want to get going in real estate. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. They never did. They would go ahead and, they'd loan me the money for the deal, and they would get busy, and that would be that. But that was a really good source to let me get started, was allowing other people to get involved in real estate by working with me. And if they wanted to learn what I was doing, I would have told them and taught them as I went, but they rarely actually did it because they were like, I'm making 12%. I got busy with my kids and my job, and they weren't as committed to actually learning it. They just really wanted to make some money and feel like they were doing real estate. So that's a really good kind of avatar of a person that you want to try to connect with, either on social media or family, friends, just anybody who has some money just sitting around doing nothing, money sitting in an IRA, in a self-directed IRA that they could direct to your investment. And then when you pay them back, the money goes right back into their IRA, plus all the interest goes in there. So that's what you're going to want to do. So it's not the amount as much, it's just start building relationships. But I think based on what you're telling me, I'd probably start in the 2 to 4 family. Yeah. And then just, take the time to really learn it. And the other thing is, when you start going into the apartment buildings, all of a sudden it sounds like someone said something, but I don't see everyone's on mute. Anyway, on mute. When you go into apartment buildings and you've actually done other things, and you can say, and you're raising funds and say, these are the projects we've done so far, it just gives you credibility. If you're going into apartments and raising money, you've literally never done anything, it's a little bit of a bigger mountain to climb, because they're like, well, how do you even know the business? And if you say, because I've been in the business, I'm just going to the next step, going larger. And frankly, when you are making the decision about what type of real estate to do, Sean, I'm a huge fan of the value add and doing the renovations. I'm never happy during the renovating process. I always want to stab myself several times throughout the whole thing, every single time. However, we make the most money when we do that. But the skill that you develop by doing that, by doing the renovation, by managing your team remotely, by knowing how to pull all the pieces together and make a $150,000 asset out of an $80,000 investment, that skill set is a really valuable one to acquire for when you're ready to go into the larger value add projects, where you're taking 10 units, 20 units, 30 units, and you're going in and having renovation done and working with management to get the rents up and to turn the whole building around. Like, it's a really nice stepping stone. So that's a good investment in your time to learn how to do that and to develop that skill. And then the credibility side of it is, of course, being able to show people what you've done. So I think that's an ideal place to start, in my opinion. What's up, Steve Caro? So Steve, who just joined us, is closing on 5, is it? 5 properties? I unmuted you. I tried. Oh, we're probably hitting mute and unmute at the same time. There we go.
Yep, we were. Well, I joined you and unjoined you a couple times because I was talking to the lender, and then I talked to a private lender, and so yes, closing on 5 of the 6. Is it 5 of 6? Yes, on Friday. I think I'm going to pull the cash pay one out and use a private lender just for a month until my rehab's done on that one. And I'll close on that next week. It'll be like Monday or Tuesday. I just talked to the private lender and he can get the funds within 48 hours. So he might be able to get it Friday, but he didn't want to guarantee that. So, but yeah, rather interesting. As I was popping in and off, I'm talking to private lenders and then I talked to that commercial lender guy too that I sent who wanted that Vamsi wanted that information. So,
oh, good. Awesome.
And I talked to that guy. He's kind of, like you said the other day, he's probably a broker, but he calls himself, a wholesaler. Commercial. Yeah. So it's he has tons of connections, and so I put that on our
group string.
Yeah. So he said anyone can call him. He'll gladly talk about deals and stuff like that. He was super excited to hear that I was getting into apartments, and so he's a good connection. So.
Awesome. That is cool. So, because Sean was asking the question, like, well, where should I start? Should I start, like, what price point, apartments now? So, Sean, the point I want to make, so Steve's in our mastermind, and he was starting with small, like, 1 to 4 family. I think you have maybe a couple single family houses in that, but you're going to be at 19 units by the time you're closed on all this, right?
Right.
And most of which are duplexes.
And I totally agree. Yeah, most of them are duplexes. And I totally agree. Starting small, I have learned so much by doing these. And I mean, it's just been since February that I've done all these deals. But now I know so much more that the apartment part of it, yes, it's more complex in the purchase and all that. But I mean, the stuff I've learned has been awesome, and it'll make it a lot easier. So.
Yeah, and you're going through your first rehab, right? Or when you close on that house, that will be your first rehab. Project of all those, right? But yeah, so Sean, like, all the properties that Steve has been closing, he's already closed on several of them, and then he's closing on more, is he's seeing all the real of the chaos of real estate, especially when you're trying to close. And so, like, his first transaction went so smoothly and so easily. I made the joke, it's like having a first child that's perfect, and you think they're all like that, and you have a second child and they're like a crazy demon. But, like, the other deals have been not as smooth. There have been not hiccups, but, like, challenges that came up, and he had to problem solve and get creative and do, like, all those kinds of things. But he's learning that now on 1 to 2 unit properties, so that now that he's ready to, like, step into the world of apartments, he's coming in with a wealth of knowledge. And even though it's still going to be a big learning curve, it's nowhere near the learning curve that it would have been, or he's not going to make the mistakes that he would probably make as a rookie, having nothing to fall back on as far as knowledge and experience. Right. And then when he gets through the first rehab, there's going to be a big learning curve there too, that he's going to be like, okay, got it. Now I understand why, X, Y, Z. And, like, some Battelle in our mastermind, she's in the process of doing a rehab, and she's dealing with a contractor who, the rule is you don't pay the contractor until they've completed the work and you have proof. Well, she sent out her inspector, as we, tell her, to verify the work was done. It wasn't, so she didn't send the money. And her contractor's like, no, I'm going to have, it'll be done in 3 days. So drywall will be done in 3 days. So in 3 days, she paid him. It's not done. And so we were talking, she's one of my one-on-one people, so we were chatting over Marco Polo last night. She's like, I feel so, this is so frustrating. I feel like he duped me. And I was like, well, that's the whole reason that you have to verify. And she's like, yeah, in my mind, I thought I just sent the inspector out 3 days ago. I'm not going to send the inspector back out again. And I said, right. But think about it. That was a $100 investment that you would have made in the inspector to go out and verify that the work was done. So you saved that, but now I don't know how much we're talking about, but now you spent a few $1,000s on drywall and it's not even done. And she's like, yes, okay, now I see. So like when you learn on the small stuff, you're not going to make that same error to the tune of a $50,000 thing when you're doing larger buildings. So everything is like, if you can learn on the smaller stuff and you're like, oh, okay, got it. Now I get why you say it. And you learn that lesson internally, you get to carry that with you forward. So Steve's going to be in a really good position when he's making that move into apartment buildings to draw on all the experience and knowledge that he's been getting. The other thing that's really cool is that because of the portfolio basically that he's purchasing right now, there's value add there because there is the rents are under market. So there's some renovating opportunities, some opportunities to move tenants out, raise the rents, and that is all good practice for value add, which is where really the biggest money in multifamily real estate is taking the underperforming building and raising the rents and or raising the net operating income, because the value, and we'll talk more about that tomorrow, but that's how the value is based on the net operating income.
Plus, if you have experience, the lenders, some of these lenders, you have to have at least 5 properties that are cash flowing, blah, blah, blah. I mean, they have all these little rules, and then you're considered experienced. And once you're in that category, oh my God, the rates are half of what you pay if you're new. So starting small helps in that realm also.
That's a good point. That's true. That is true. Okay, let me see. Freddie, you said, sorry, I refer you as your boardroom name, Alfred. What about cap rates? Does it matter if they're vacant or occupied? Just trying to narrow the conversation. Okay, so on cap rate, so in the beginning with the conversation, I really want you to just be open, like send me what you got so that you could just get deal flow coming in. But generally speaking, the higher the cap rate, we'll dive into this more tomorrow, but the higher the cap rate, the better. So if someone's saying we have something that's a 6% cap rate or something that's an 8% cap rate, 8% cap rate is going to be better for you. It's more profitable. So generally speaking, Freddie, you probably want to be focusing on something that's at least an 8 cap. Ideally, you'll hit a 10 cap. That's really hard to reach these days. So, but I wouldn't narrow it for these first conversations. I really want you to just like get them doing something. Because here's the deal: if you go to them and say, I need something that's this, and this, and it needs to be an 8 cap, and blah blah blah, and they look at their inventory and they're like, I don't have anything, and then they just move on to some other conversation, you've lost the opportunity to like build the relationship. So frankly, right now, for the purpose of this, I don't even care. It's not that I don't care for the purchase, of course, but I just want you to get them interacting with you so that you can respond, oh, thank you so much, I really appreciate it. Okay, so I looked at it, and so far it looks like of the 6 that you sent, these 2 are probably the ones that would make the most sense, and then let me ask some more questions. So it allows you to engage them in a conversation. And that is sometimes where the off-market opportunities are going to come from. Okay, and then you said, does it matter if they're vacant or occupied? Absolutely. So Freddie, are you looking more at, maybe I can't, but you might have to unmute yourself. Are you looking more at 2 to 4 unit or apartments?
2 to 4 units.
Okay, so occupied or vacant is going to depend on the strategy. Do you want to do the BRRRR strategy, or are you looking to buy performing?
I'd rather do the BRRRR strategy, but I've noticed I made some phone calls from the homework yesterday, and I noticed some of them put a halt on the multifamily lending, or they require a lot of experience.
Wait, what? Say that one more time. They said what?
Yeah, so they said we're not doing any multifamily. We don't have any loan programs for multifamily right now because of COVID.
The lenders.
But we are doing, and their terms tightened up a little bit in the last couple of weeks. But
yeah,
I don't know if that would still be a strategy that would be able to work right now.
Yeah. So, and that's part of why. And some of you guys might have seen it, or I don't know, but it'll be, if I can figure out time today to do it, it'll be today. If not, it'll be tomorrow or Friday. But sometime this week, I'm going to announce in the Facebook group a time that I'm going to get everybody who wants to participate in on a big Zoom call. And if it's not even like, I'm not even teaching, it's just more, let's put together this giant group effort where everyone who wants to have like a list of lenders and what they're doing is willing to go find 5 or 10, put them on a list and make those calls and do the screening, which that I'll teach how to do. And then we're all going to share it on like a shared drive. And everybody who participated in helping create that will get access to that. So I think through doing that, that should hopefully start to open some doors, because right now I don't have an answer because everything did just shift. But I know that there's probably ones out there. We just have to figure out which ones they are so we can focus on those. So I'm going to answer your question as far as generally the way it works, you know, outside of this little, you know, bubble that we're in right now, which is just, you know, circumstantial and hopefully very short term. So if you want to do the burst strategy, it is much better if they're vacant, much better, because if they're occupied, you have to go through the process of getting them out to do the renovations. You can't really renovate when the tenants are living there. So all it does is drag on your hard money. So if you get a hard money loan, but the people are in there, you got to give them notice. And then what if they don't move out? But now you got to go through the eviction process, and depending on where you're doing it, how tenant friendly it is, that could end up being a long time. And they could do more damage because they're pissed, basically, that how dare you come in and now you're going to raise the rent by $300 a month and make this fancy, whatever it is. It's just better if you're not dealing with the tenant dynamic there. So if you want the first strategy, I would focus on vacant. And then here's another thing I shared with someone in our mastermind yesterday. Cami was looking at doing basically a burst strategy. It was a fixer upper duplex. And last week I called a couple of lenders, and 2 of them had no loan programs at all for the rentals. Actually, and the third one had no loan program for rentals, but I was like, well, he goes, we only do fix and flip right now. And I was like, fix and flip seems like literally the most risky strategy that exists. I want to ask some questions. Like, so when you say fix and flip, what about investor flip? And he's like, well, what is that? Like, what does that mean? I said, we buy it, we fix it up, we have tenants in there, and then we sell it to another investor as a performing cash flow property. He goes, oh yeah, we consider that fix and flip. And the reason we even had to have that conversation is because I said, well, if we're buying it to renovate it and we're going to refinance it, not with you, since you don't offer that right now, but with somewhere else. He goes, well, we probably wouldn't do that unless you had like a long-standing relationship with a bank and a lender, and they already said that they would take the loan out. Otherwise, we probably won't do that, because, you know, we only do fix and flip. And I was like, okay. So what I advised Cami basically was like, look, if you guys decide to do that and you need the initial fix up loan, because conventional banks don't do that kind of loan. When you and I was like, I'll give you the name and number of this particular lender. When you talk to them, don't say you're going to keep it. Say you're doing an investor flip. And that way you can get the purchase and renovation loan. And it could just be that when it comes time, instead of, you might just decide, you know what, I actually just really want to keep it. And then go get outside bank financing. They're not going to say that no at that point. They don't care. But getting into the loan. So there's just a few adjustments that if you need to make in order to help facilitate getting things going, that's what we're going to figure out. That's what this big project is kind of going to be about, is let's see what we're dealing with, and then how do we need to like ebb and flow through it. It's just like when assigning properties became this very difficult thing to do because agents were onto it or the contracts were not assignable. And so, okay, fine, you're going to give us a roadblock. Cool. We'll just find our way around it. We'll put the property into the LLC and we'll sell the business. We'll sell the LLC. We've effectively wholesaled it. So there's just ways that you get creative as an investor to get to your end goal. If the straight line there isn't allowed or doesn't work, but you can still get there by, still with integrity. You're still paying them. They're not losing any money, but still getting there. So anyway, so if I will make an announcement about that project, like when we're going to do the Zoom call, and if you want to participate in that, then you'll get all the lenders that everybody pulls together, and we'll just see like what's out there and focus on the ones that will do something that would work for you. But yeah, I would go with vacant on that question. What you want to do. All right. So John, you said, any tips with other investors when seeking to partner with someone to invest in a deal? Yeah, absolutely. So one, Sean, you really want to be very clear on what your exit strategy is. So so based on what you've already told me, you're interested more like 2 to 4 unit value add. So we call that the BRRRR strategy. So you would let people know, you probably would do more private lending than partnering in that case, because if you're going to plan on holding it long term, it's not the most ideal situation to be partnered up on that with just some random person, unless it was someone you would have partnered with anyway. So if you're just having conversations with people, it would just be like, here's what I'm doing. I'm buying fixer-uppers. We're doing, we do nice renovations. We get them rented. And so it's a performing cash flow property. And then we refinance out of that hard money loan and out of your private money. And so that's how you get paid back, is out of basically when we refinance it. And then we'll just keep it. If you are looking to partner with someone, you can say, look, what I'm looking for is we're going to get, use a hard money lender to do the purchase and the renovation, and then we're going to refinance it after, and then we would just own 50-50, ownership of the property, or ownership of 50-50 of the LLC that owns the property. And maybe you end up doing several deals like that together. And it's not a bad way to get started if you don't have your own capital. So not ideal to own property with other people if you don't, already have a relationship, but as long as you have talked about like what the rules are and what the exit is and whatever everyone's plan is, you can always have an attorney write up an operating agreement that really lines all those things out. So, but I would just that's what it is. It's really, here's what I'm looking to do. Here's what I can offer. Or where does it, you sometimes have to listen to the conversation, like where are they going, oh, that sounds interesting. And when I say, here's what I have to offer, I don't mean like as far as specific terms. I don't mean like the percentage. You can say, we offer, a really nice rate of return, or we offer 50% ownership, or we offer 30% ownership, or whatever it is that you're willing to give to them for them coming in and helping to fund that middle ground for you. Another thing that you can do in the meantime, Sean, too, to just help build up capital is to do some wholesaling. Because if you're going to learn the skill of reaching out and building relationships with realtors and getting deal flow and doing the analysis and everything else, and you can connect that property with a buyer who is financially ready to go on it, you can make a wholesale fee for that. So that's also a way to build up your capital. We have several people who are in mastermind who came in to do buy and hold, and they're also doing wholesaling just to create the next down payment so that they can buy and hold. So they're just doing like both strategies so they can just start building their wealth faster. It's like you have all the connections. That's what takes all the time, is to build everything initially. So if you have it, you might as well maximize it, use it. All right, so Freddie, 65% LTV and 100% of rehab is the trend I saw yesterday when calling lenders, and required at least 3 deals for experience, 8 to 12% based on experience. Would JV be the only option during COVID? I will find out. When we do this big funding project, we'll find out. And here's the deal. The reason I brought up that one specific lender to Cami and Leroy was because they would do it with no experience.
Oh, wow.
And that's what I want to find out from all these different lenders, because we called 2, and one was at 70%, one was at 65%, just like the exact same terms you said. They all wanted to have either some rental properties. Like Steve would be fine because he owns rentals, and so they want to see that you have flipping experience. But if you don't, then they'll say, well, we'll apply like 2 rentals to 1 flip, and as long as you have this or combination, we'll consider it experience. So yes, JVing with somebody who has that is an option, or let's just find out more what's out there and see what we can do. But that one lender didn't require experience as long as it was a fix and flip. So you just have to present it that way in that case. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what comes out of that information project. I mean, when you get people, Facebook group is pretty big, and if we get people that are like literally all over the US searching, like I feel like we should have a pretty decent database, which will give us some visibility and then the ability to strategize and move forward based on that research. So I think that's going to be a good project. Oh, Allie, that was nice. Allie says, you're a really special person. Thank you. That's nice. I've been studying these topics for 1 to 2 years, and I've never seen someone provide such value in such a personal way. I appreciate what you're doing. Thank you. I'm sure it's obvious, but this is clearly what I am put here to do. I have a passion. I have a passion for teaching and teaching real estate. Not teaching in general, because what's outside my door right now? I want to go stab myself where it's on that. 4 kids at the homeschool. I do not like teaching. I like teaching real estate to real estate entrepreneurs. Help me. Okay, just kidding. I'm hiring a teacher. I'm on care.com. I'm hiring a teacher because I can't do it anymore. I'm going to lose my mind. All right, let's see. Kimberly, good feedback. Alfred, I have a database of lenders across the country, and it really depends. You can still get, Fannie, Freddie loans at 80% loan to value and interest rates under 4%, assuming you can qualify, or your sponsorship team can qualify. 60 to 70% loan to value for local or regional banks is more reasonable, and the interest rate can range 4% and up depending on if it's stabilized or value add. Stabilized is more than 4 to 6%, value add more than 8 to 12%. Yeah, and the reason that the 8 to 12% is why it's higher for properties that are not stable. The word stabilized means, the other word for it is when I say performing, so it's done, there's nothing to do, that's stabilized. In the commercial, Kimberly is actually our commercial real estate coach in our mastermind. Like, so she's just a ridiculously giant wealth of knowledge and information. So, but she focuses all on apartment buildings. But anyway, so stabilized is you're buying something that it's already going. The value add, the reason that interest rates are higher is because those are considered to be more risky from the bank standpoint, because what if all of a sudden you as a developer just bounce? You're like, forget it, I'm not doing this. And you just take off. Now they have something that is not as easy to sell because not as many investors can take on a value add opportunity. You have to have the specific knowledge and skill set and finances and patience to make that happen. So it's a riskier asset for a bank to lend on, and any risk and reward always go hand in hand. So the less risky it is, the lower the interest rate. The more risky it is, the higher the interest rate. So that's why it's a little bit higher. Yes, thank you, Kimberly. She's like, the brain on this woman, it's scary. We got to figure out when we're going to do our next 1031. So Kimberly is in the passive income real estate group, because we have two real estate groups. One is for the how to buy multifamily apartments, and one is the passive income real estate investing group. And in that group, we've been doing a video series with Kimberly on following her through a 1031 exchange that she's doing for her mom, basically helping her mom get into move her money from a 1031 exchange that just closed last week. Or was it on Monday? No, last week. I've lost track of all time. But anyway, it just closed. Yeah, it closed last Monday, and we're going through and following her on the journey. And so she comes in and does teaching about like what happened, what are they looking at, stuff like that. So if you want to learn more from Kimberly, you got to watch that series. It's so much information, so good. And Sean, is wholesaling common with commercial properties, or is that more of a residential thing? It's both. It's absolutely both. You are going to have more buyers for residential than commercial, just because there's more people who understand that product better. But wholesaling is absolutely done on both ends. In fact, I had just sent, I don't even know if I told Kimberly this, but because Kimberly's looking for an apartment building for her mom, I had just sent a wholesaler that I have a connection with, because he works in multiple states, and I just said, hey, if you have any apartment buildings, let me know. And he's like, okay, how many units, how much you want to pay, value add, or this. He had all these questions. So he doesn't specialize in that, but he's like, yeah, okay, I'll look around. But there are people who also specialize in doing wholesaling apartment buildings. But yeah, that's absolutely a thing. The thing that's probably a little bit more, it's more involved, takes more time, because if you really want to offer something of value, in my opinion, it needs to not just be, okay, I have it under contract, here, go ahead and buy it. Like, you need to actually offer something of value, which is go do some due diligence and make sure the deal's actually good. So on a commercial building, that's going to be more work than it is in the residential. So it's easier to do wholesaling in the residential 1 to 4 units. But the money is probably bigger, not probably, the money would be bigger in commercial apartments. So, all right, I don't see any other questions. Do you guys have any other questions that you want to ask before we wrap up? And is everybody clear on your homework? Call 5 brokers and see if we can start getting some deal flow coming in. Yes, good? Yes, good? All right, cool deal. All right, well, we will see you. I will post, we'll post this video inside our unit section. I'll post the homework. Actually, probably already posted. I think I had it scheduled to go at 1 o'clock. Go back on the Facebook group and mark down, like, what did you do, so we can celebrate with you, and you can encourage other people to get involved and just start making some moves. And I will see you guys tomorrow, same time. Oh, and we're doing the live at 5 today. So 5 o'clock Pacific, Jennifer and I will be coming on doing the live at 5. So I will see you then. In the meantime, have an awesome day. Bye.